8 Mix says, there is a difference between between MAGA and sane Republicans and Democrats. Very important point. Very important point. However, right now, some of those sane Republicans seem to be jumping on board. And, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go back and let's talk about Madison Square Garden again, from a Christian witness perspective. All right. So we know that there was a quote unquote professional comedian say some really, really horrible things about Puerto Rico. Called it a garbage patch, I believe, floating on the ocean. That has not gone over well at all. It has not gone over well at all. And so I've been really fascinated by the reactions to this. And many Republicans, many conservatives have stood up and said, absolutely not. This is wrong. This is ugly. There's no room for this in our party. There's no room for this in this election. This is not true. I have many Puerto Rican friends, and I visit there often, and whatever the case might be, they are defending Puerto Rico. They are defending Puerto Ricans. They are defending Latinos, and they are saying, no, what this guy said was not okay. It was wrong. They're standing against it. They're angry. Okay. And not only are they trying to distance themselves from it, they're denouncing it. They're actively denouncing what he said. But then there's been others. And this sort of struck me. I was watching, I think it's Abby Phillips on CNN. And she had a panel there. You might have seen the panel because one of her guests said something horrible to Mehdi Hassan. She had this right-leaning, this Republican pundit, and she asked him to respond to it. And he said the thing about, well, we have property there. We just got back from Puerto Rico. As a matter of fact, I love Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Ricans. It's a lovely place. It never should have been called this, da-da-da-da-da. And then she asked him, well, the Trump campaign, what have they said about it? He said, well, the Trump campaign has said, we don't condone this. So the Trump campaign says we don't condone this. He said, I don't condone this. I don't condone this. This isn't, I don't condone this. But what I've found in reading Trump campaign's statement about this and listening to this particular pundit, they don't condone it, but they're not denouncing it either. Okay? And there's a difference between saying, that's not what I think, and that's wrong. I know it might sound like I'm splitting a hair, but it's true. There's a difference between not condoning something and actively denouncing it, actively saying that is not okay, that is ugly, that never should have happened. But they can't. They won't. Because if they denounce it, they know that they're actually denouncing a message that someone in Trump's circle approved, because this guy's whole shtick, his set was reviewed. They had him remove a joke about Kamala Harris where he called her a particularly ugly name. They had him remove that, but this one stayed. So they knew it was there. So if these people stand up and actively denounce what was said by this comic, someone in Trump's circle, they know that someone in Trump's circle, and perhaps even Trump, has approved it. They were okay with it. They did condone it. And Trump, for that record, came forward and said, I don't know the guy, never met the guy, don't want to know the guy. Didn't say anything about the message. Didn't say anything about the message. Well, I think he did. Well, I was the greatest president for Puerto Ricans that ever was president. I did more for Puerto Ricans than any other president ever. That's what he said. But he didn't denounce the joke. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing this up because it's really ugly, and it really makes me angry that that this kind of thing is still out there. And it's really, especially given the fact that this was Madison Square Garden, and so many people, even before it happened, so many people were drawing lines, connecting it to the 1939 rally, saying, hey, don't you see the similarities here, that I'm really, really surprised. And then, of course, not really surprised at all that his campaign didn't do everything they could to differentiate themselves from that infamous 1939 rally. Instead, they allowed it to happen. They allowed the similarities to become glaringly apparent and visible for the whole world to see. There's going to be lots of stuff, especially coming forward. All right, and we talked about being people of love. We've talked about having love in our soul. We talked about being there for our neighbor. We know what it is that Jesus is calling us to do within our communities. Well, one of those things, especially when if you think along the terms of justice, one of those things is not only to say that's not okay. I don't believe in that. I don't condone that. One of the things we're going to be called to do, one of the things we are called to do, is to actively stand up against evil, against hatred, against vitriol, against this sick rhetoric, right? Against the dehumanization, against the othering that we will see in the coming months, in the coming years, perhaps. It's going to be up to us to stand up as allies to those who are on the margins, standing there beside them, standing there sometimes between them and those that would oppress them. Choosing not to condone something is not the same as denouncing it. We must be willing to denounce hatred and intolerance when we see it, from wherever we see it from. Amen.